Hey guys, Dr. Rodman here. Today we're going to give you a synopsis on Tom Brady's book, The TB12 Method. I recently listened to it on Audible, and I really liked the book, and I wanted to share some of what I thought were the highlights of it. A lot of controversy has been going around about his trainer recently, and I guess getting kicked out of the Patriots locker room, and I wanted to kind of learn more about what he's doing, and obviously love him or hate Tom Brady, you have to admire the guy. You got to respect the guy. 40 years old, his numbers are great, and they're continuing to stay good or get better. So, how does he do this, and what is he doing that we can do better in our own lives, even if we're not NFL players? What can we do to just perform our best at our daily activities? To take you back about Tom Brady, a little bit, he started to have elbow discomfort years ago. And he really, in his book, he talks about he wasn't able to really practice much after the games. He's constantly icing his arm, his elbow, and limited practice. And then game time, he would play, and his arm would constantly be in pain. Patriots player Willie McGinnis introduced him to Alex Guerrero, his trainer, and did some therapy on him, and his arm started to feel great after a couple sessions. And he said, well, whatever what you just did, can we do on my entire body as a preventative measure? And this is what Tom Brady calls pliability training, and he believes this is the missing link to most strength and conditioning regimens. And basically what he says is, as an NFL quarterback, his job, why does he have to bench press 300 pounds? Why does he have to squat 400 pounds? The job of a quarterback is to quickly drop back into the pocket, be agile enough to flee a defender, so kind of moving laterally, moving in different planes of motion, throw a ball, or to absorb a big force, to take a hit, right? So he said, when he starts to train and lift heavy weights, he's making his muscles more dense. And what happens is the more dense they become, the less likely they are to absorb a force. Basically what they're talking about in the book is that when we're born, we're very pliable. Our muscles are very long at rest. They can contract. We don't really have the strength. So, that's okay to strength train and to lift heavy weights as we, are in our adolescence, not, 20s, 30s. We need to have more strength and pliability because we naturally have that. But as we get older, our muscles become more dense, more short. And if you think about it, a muscle, a lot of people think our muscles are just to make us move. But what they do is they're also shock absorbers. So, they're supposed to absorb a shock. And if you think of like a car shock absorber, right? If you ever see one like a spring, it starts out long, and then when it needs to absorb shock, it shortens, right? So if your muscles are constantly shortened from contracting and lifting heavy weights, they get short and dense, and now they don't have as much ability to absorb a force. So basically, that was a real eye-opener, and something that as a sports chiropractor, we already naturally try to talk to our patients about. Long muscles are able to be healthier muscles. If you are always contracting, you need to elongate and reset them so that they can do their job properly. And I think what he did was he just kind of coined the phrase pliability training, which is great because it'll now get out there and be a bigger thing than it can be if I were just to tell it to you. But I do believe that this is really something that people need to do, not just for injuries, but as Tom Brady has been doing it. He's defying all odds. He's 40 years old. His numbers are better than ever. He wants to play till he's 45. The guy is doing amazing. The average NFL career is around 3.3 years. He's been playing, I believe, 17 years. So I think that this is a really valid thing that he is talking about. It's definitely worth a listen to. So pliable muscles are healthy muscles. What he talks about in the book is him with Alex Guerrero is a therapy that they do. And basically, it's concentrated deep force muscle work while the muscle is fully contracting and relaxing. So the therapist will apply pressure while the person on the table is contracting and relaxing that specific targeted muscle. And he says that's what primes his muscles to get into the state to absorb a force. To me, that sounds very similar to a therapy that we do in the office here called active release technique. But instead of just getting it on an injured area, he's getting it on his entire body to basically use it as a preventative way to optimize his athletic performance. He also talks about a lot of people train for maximal strength, which means that you're as strong as you can possibly be. Well, he thinks what you need to do is think about optimal strength, which is think about your daily job. What are you doing in life? What do you need to be strong for? And get as much strength as you need for that activity, but don't neglect the pliability of your muscles. The more we go for maximal strength, the more dense and shortened our muscles become, the less pliable, the less able to absorb shock, the more tendinitis we're going to get, the more muscle tears we're going to get, the more arthritis we're going to get down the road because we're not really absorbing shock very well with our muscles. So now our joints are getting damaged. So a very interesting book. Pliability was his number one step to peak performance. Number two, he said hydrate. He said about half of your body weight with water and electrolytes. The third thing he said is to reduce caffeine, soda, and alcohol, because that's very dehydrating. You need to make sure you're drinking more water with electrolytes if you are having those as well. The fourth thing he says to eat real food. Real food is something that is not processed, something that is organic, something that is fresh. Number five, he said vegetables, eat them raw. If possible, try to eat most of your vegetables raw. Number six, he said shop locally, eat local food, and avoid frozen, something that was traveled from far to get to your grocery store, something that has thawed out and been refrozen. He said to eat fresh is part of his steps to peak performance. Number seven was to limit the chronic inflammatory type foods, which he says is processed foods, is fast foods, and the 5 W's, which is white breads, white pasta, white salt, white milk, and white potatoes. So that was number 7 on his 12 steps to peak performance. Number 8, he said supplement. A minimum, you want to have a multi and a B complex, according to his book. Number 9 is to make sure you're supplementing with protein powder or a bar after workouts, especially to help rebuild and repair your muscles. Also snack when hungry. Number 10, recenter yourself every day. Do something you love or meditate to rebalance your internal environment. Number 11 was brain fitness. Practice plasticity-based brain exercises to keep the brain in an optimal condition. And the last thing he said, which was number 12 on his steps to peak performance, was to rest. Make sure you get 8 hours of sleep every night. Try to go to sleep at the same time so you can build that habit. So there is my synopsis on Tom Brady's TB12 Method. Great book. Obviously, he's doing something right. Something to listen to, and take what you can out of it. Maybe you don't do all those 12 steps, but definitely applying some of those to your life will improve your peak performance, and hopefully we can all be as good as him.